Well, welcome to Hooked on Utah. It's been a beautiful morning of flying out in the backcountry, and I figured since we're down here at the Provo Airport, I want to take you over and show you one of our really cool hidden gems. A little secret, a taste of history from World War II that I think you're going to love, and then we'll jump out, we'll do a little bass fishing. All right, here as promised, we've got Jan Frank, we've got Bob Schroeder. We're in Hangar 40, Provo, Utah, Aircraft Restoration Corporation. What do we have behind us?
So what we have here is a 1945, it was built in 1945, Douglas A-26 Invader. It's a twin-engine light bomber used mostly to the mid to late part of the war, also used in Korea and Vietnam era. So the airplane is a three-man airplane, carries 6,000 pounds of bombs, and this version here that you see with the 8-gun nose, the guns in the wings, and then it used to have a turret in the back and a turret in the bottom. It could carry up to 18 50 caliber machine guns. Finally found this in Arlington, Washington that had been sitting up there in storage for about 15 years. We acquired the airplane, brought it down here on 5 flatbed trailers of stuff. The wings weren't on it, the tail group wasn't on it, of course the engines weren't on it, and then we had several noses that we got, and we started work on this, and we received it in April of 2011 and started on it in about December of 2011. So we've been working on it pretty steady since then. Okay, so Gary, that's a good question. Where do we start on an airplane like this? And we had everything organized in the hangar where the fuselage was in one place and the wings were in another place and so forth and so on. We had a box of parts that I didn't know what they were for. I went and got them, went through them, and they were right here. Detailed them out, cleaned them up, new bearings, bolts, and paint, and then we put it together, and it was put it back in the back here. And what it is that it's the elevator and rudder mixer to control all the control surfaces back here. So you can see here what the parts used to look like, and that was kind of indicative of the whole airplane condition. It was not very nice to what we really turned the rest of the airplane into.
All right, so Jan, once you'd gone from the mixer forward with everything that entails, what were the next steps at that point to kind of close off this tail section?
So once we got through the fuselage and worked up through the bomb bay area and up into the cockpit, got those things basically organized and started to clean, we came back to the tail section here because all these units up here were not on the airplane. So we had to clean and restore those inside and out. So they got new hardware where we could, painted, primed, and all of that. Put the abrasion boots on it on both the horizontal stabs and the vertical, as well as we're installing the elevators and the rudders with new gap seals. Those were all worn out and pretty ratty. And so once we got those organized and put those to the side, then we started working a little bit on the gun nose up here. And what we have on the gun nose up there, it's an 8-gun nose, so it had eight 50 caliber machine guns in that nose back in the day. Now these aren't real, but they're pretty fun. They're simulated guns and they work, and I'm sure we'll show that after a while as well.
Hooked on Utah is proudly presented by Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter, Mountain America Credit Union, guiding you forward on your financial journey. Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork, Utah, family owned since 1968. Bucked Up, fueling your outdoor adventures. Lifetime, bringing families together. X Insurance, custom insurance solutions for your business, your family, your life. All right, Bob, so pretty cool. We've kind of worked our way from the tail forward, but this was one of the biggest projects and still is because of the amount of detail that has to go into the cockpit, and let's talk about it for a minute.
Okay, well, so we were in here. We thought that we could service this center console. There's 48 pulleys and 48 cables and 150 pulleys in this assembly. And they're all through this whole thing. And the only ones I could reach reasonably were in the backside of this. And I pulled 4 of those out. 2 of them didn't turn. It took Jan a day to get those cleaned out and functioning. We decided at that point to de-rivet this center console, take it out of here. Well, that meant let's take the rest of it out of here and we'll clean and paint and everything. I disassembled this. We had the center console all blasted and painted. I went through and cleaned all of the cables. Jan serviced all the pulleys. And it was a couple of month project to get all of this back together again and working. And now it's all rigged and everything is fabulous in here. And you can see down here the amount of cables and stuff and pulleys that run through this to control basically every aspect of the airplane.
This is an incredibly complicated job. Just to restore everything back to its original working order has taken thousands of hours. And like we mentioned earlier at the initial part of the show, we're at 10 years now, almost a decade of restoration being worked on every single day in this hangar. But this is so beautiful. I mean, you have your throttle, you have your propeller, and you have your mixture over here, and everything is buttery smooth. It is so glossy. It's so neat to see that all of this, the amount of work, and what you're not seeing too is behind the panel, we'll show you there's hydraulics, there's electronic, there's wiring, there's all of the ground boards, everything that goes into this to make sure that not only do the mechanical side work, but all of the gauges work and all of the components that require electricity, those all work. And that's all tucked in. It's stuff you can't even see that was once out of the airplane. It's mind-boggling to see this beautiful piece of history coming back to life. It's incredible. So far, as you can see, this is pretty incredible. And the fact that we're just skimming the surface, I mean, we haven't really dove into any of the nitty-gritty details. So I hope you get that, I mean, this is 10 years in the making. The one thing that I want to talk about, because it was pretty monumental, it happened, I want to say, earlier this year, and that was the plane going up on landing gear, basically standing on its own legs. And that was massive. We haven't even talked about the wings and what went into that, and then the nacelles here that hold the engine, all the plumbing. And we're going to recircle back to this again and give you more detail. But Jan, the landing gear was a huge thing.
Landing gear was pretty awful. I mean, it was rusted and corroded, dirty and filthy, and so obviously the decision was made to take it out. So if we come over here, we'll take a quick shot of the gear.
All right, so Jan, the landing gear, we mentioned, this was incredible right here, what it took to get this up on its own landing gear.
So what we did is we removed all of the landing gear components that you see up in here. This is so nasty. I was confused at what I was even looking at. So Bob and I and so a bunch of other guys got all the gear out, cleaned everything up, put new bolts and bearings and seals in the landing gear and the strut. Everything that's completely detailed out. These landing gear are basically brand new. Went through and detailed all of the sheet metal work inside, cleaned it all up, removed corrosion, got it repainted, then put the gear back in. So the right gear here is installed, as you can see, the left gear is installed, and the nose wheel gear is installed, and they're all to this condition.
It's absolutely incredible what it takes to get it to this point, which is, in my opinion, probably better than when it rolled off the factory.
Well, and it is all completely rigged, tuned up, and works perfect, yes.
All right, Bob, so this is the part I think people are really interested in. It's the power plants for this big airplane. Tell me about these.
These are Pratt & Whitney R2800-79 engines. They're producing 2,000 horsepower a side. There's 2 rows of 9 cylinders each. These things are going to drink, we're thinking about 90 gallons an hour per side, not to mention the 35 gallons of oil that we have stored in storage vessels in the nacelles.
It's absolutely incredible. What did it take to get these reconditioned and ready for flight?
We actually sent these engines to Idaho to be what they call an IRAN, which is inspect, repair, or replace as needed. So these are low time engines. They have been run on the test stand. Now the thing was to make them pretty, put new hoses, go through all the control cables. These are amazing control cables that control like the propeller and the throttle and the mixture and superchargers and all of that stuff.
And then our plan is, when do you think they'll go on the wings?
Next week.
Next week. I hope. Are you serious?
It depends on if we're looking for parts to be able to get these ready.
All right. So maybe next week. This is absolutely incredible because these were boxed up, shipped away. I've been, Jan and I have been friends, and Bob and I have been friends for years and years and years. And the engines, that was a big day when they came back from Idaho ready to go. And so we're going to mount those up here next week, hopefully within the next couple of weeks. But again, I want to impress upon you, we're just hitting the surface here. This airplane's been here, we'll call it a decade, and it's been worked on every day for a decade. And that's what it takes to restore one of these airplanes back to flying condition. And every part has to be touched, cleaned, and gone over, because the wrong part can cause something to fail, and it can be a cascade of events. And this airplane, by the time it's ready to fly, is going to be in pristine, airworthy condition, and it's so close. So there have been a whole bunch of people that have worked on this airplane, not just you and Jan, but there are a lot of volunteers that come in and spend a ton of time on this plane.
And I don't know where we'd be if they hadn't been here.
We haven't even shown you the wings, and we're going to do that on another episode. But right now, I'm going to put up an email for you where you can ask some additional questions of these awesome gentlemen. If you want to donate time and money, or either, you can reach out to them and let them know if you have specific skills related to this type of work, because we want to see this airplane in the next 2 years at Oshkosh. That's my goal.
I'm sooner than that.
He's a year, I'm 2 years. We'll meet it in the middle, but this baby's going to Oshkosh along with Jan's P-51 Mustang we haven't even shown you. So this just gives you a real taste of what we've got coming. We're going to come back, circle back to this as the plane runs, does all of its ground tests. Hope you enjoyed it.